This whole saga started because my husband took my last name. A couple of weeks ago, he got his workplace to change it and his coworkers found out. About half of them think this is the funniest thing ever and about half are deeply offended. Brenda is in the offended half and has made that clear. He and I are in a group chat with his coworkers where we organize carpooling during the pandemic. It is very helpful to us, so we can't leave the chat. Since he changed his name, my husband and I have been dealing with a lot of dumb jokes in the chat, which we have been mostly ignoring. Yesterday Brenda, his coworker and I got into a bit of a spat. I messaged the group asking if someone could take my husband home since I wouldn't be back from work until late and needed a car. One of his other coworkers agreed and I thought that was that. Brenda messages the group saying maybe, if you spent less time at work and more time being a wife, your husband wouldn't come into work with dirty shirts. I took this as a bad joke initially. My husband is a rural mail carrier, so his shirts look like shirts worn by someone in 90-degree heat on dusty roads. I do wash them, but there's only so much to be done. I could make cleaning those shirts my full-time job, and it wouldn't do much. You won't be married very long if you keep trying to be the man in the relationship. I'd be embarrassed as a wife if I did so little for my husband. Well, I work more hours and pay the bills, so I think he can oxy-clean his own shirts if it's so important. Maybe you should learn to take proper care of your husband or you'll find yourself divorced. I'll let you know when I need relationship advice from someone who is 42 and single. Now apparently Brenda is going around and saying that I mocked her for being single in her 40s. I don't care if someone is single in their 40s, but I think it's absolute crap that she can call me a bad wife, but I can't point out she has no frame of reference. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. At all. She came out of left field and started insulting you for no reason. On top of that, she interjected herself into your marriage. Your retort was logical. What business does she have giving PPL unsolicited marriage advice when she's not in a successful marriage herself? For the future, don't engage. Simply say something like, your remarks are inappropriate. I will not lower myself and respond to such comments. Do not speak to me unless you have something relevant to carpooling to say. As someone who is 35 and single, I was ready to say you're the idiot when I saw the title, but given the context, I'm giving a firm not the idiot. She needed a harsh response because she just wasn't taking the hint. Expressing an opinion is one thing, but she was publicly berating you. I'd go as far as saying she was attempting to humiliate you. You were entirely within your rights to fight back. Sometimes you have to fight dirty to get a bully to stop. Maybe next time she'll think before she tries to force century-old gender stereotypes on others. Doubt it though. Not the idiot. Brenda was a patronizing, insulting, misogynistic jerk who knowingly pushed you until you sniped back. It wasn't even a mean snipe. I, like Brenda, am unmarried and can say without feeling hurt about it that I therefore obviously should not dole out marital advice. Your point was freaking fair. You didn't mock her, you pointed out that she literally did not have the actual knowledge to give the advice, which was really just insultingly that she was giving. I love that you guys went that way with last names. Yeah, pretty exhausting title, couldn't think of a more concise way of summarizing my situation. My boyfriend and I have been in a committed relationship for about 2 years now. For the last 9 months, however, he's been pretty much on the other side of the country for work. It's been tough, but we are most definitely still incredibly dedicated to one another. Meanwhile, I've been working at this place for about 7 months, and almost from the start, this guy named Derek has been harassing me. It started out with innocent comments and eventually progressed to what I can only describe as borderline verbal harassment. Throughout all this, I have stated repeatedly that I have a boyfriend, I'm not interested, etc., but the guy literally cannot take a hint. He usually replies with crap like I don't see no ring on your finger or when's the last time I've seen you at a party not alone. Our workplace holds these cookout parties that most coworkers like to bring their significant others or children to. I've brought the situation to HR about 3 times now. He just gets a warning and then goes back to harassing me in a few days. I've even requested to be moved to another floor, which has been denied. At this point, the lady working the desk has literally just told me to ignore it. So, this weekend while venting to my sister, she suggested that I just wear an engagement ring to work from now on to show that I'm absolutely 100% taken. I don't know if this would work, but it's worth a shot to me. My sister owns an Etsy jewelry store and can easily lend me one of her rings. However, when I broached this idea to my boyfriend, he was completely against it, saying that it was disrespectful to him when we aren't actually engaged. Would I be the idiot? Not the idiot. I have never been married, but I have had a fake wedding ring for years. I wore it to get my car serviced, and to the hardware store, and to deal with apartments and stuff like that. It seriously cut down on the all crap. My boyfriend got upset when I put it on in front of him, but then when he happened to see an incident with ring and without ring, he calmed way down. About workplace do though. Escalate this. Track the incidents and document in writing HR complaints and insist on written response from HR on situation. No idiots here. Your boyfriend is probably confused to what's going on. I'm sure if he understood better the capacity of this harassment, he would be flying right on over to punch this guy's teeth out. I personally believe your sister's idea is dumb. Go back to HR. Tell them if they do not remove this man from your vicinity, you will be talking to the police. If they don't listen to what you've got to say, you will be sure to let the local news know about how this organization let a woman feel insecure in the workplace and forced to endure verbal abuse. Not the idiot. This is actually exactly what I do. I have a diamond ring from my mom and a sapphire band I got from my grandma that I wear when working with the public or out on my own. I've definitely found that it helps keep men from making as many unwanted comments. Your boyfriend isn't around to see this going on, and he doesn't have to deal with the harassment like you do. Wear the ring. It helps. Or if he doesn't want to feel disrespected since they aren't engaged, maybe he should propose. This might not be the best advice anyway. I, 21, have been friends with my roommate, 22, since kindergarten. Our whole lives she's been bad at borrowing things, not giving a borrowed item back for weeks or months and sometimes ever. But she's an incredible person otherwise, and I love her. This event may change things, though. Her laptop charger stopped working on Saturday, and she asked if she could borrow mine. I said yes, as long as she doesn't take it out of the house or gave it back to me on Tuesday, as I had a very important meeting at 9 a.m. and would need to plug my laptop in for it as it would be hours long. She said no problem, she planned on going to buy a new one on Monday anyway and wouldn't need it that long, and she began using my charger. I texted her yesterday morning to remind her I needed my charger for 9 a.m. the next day, today, and because I'd be home from work around 1 a.m., I asked her if she'd leave it on the kitchen table or in my bedroom. I got home around 1:30 a.m. and the charger wasn't anywhere in the house. I checked my laptop to see if I could do the meeting without the charger, but it was at 20%. So I went into her room, unplugged her laptop and took my charger back. The day around 1 p.m. I heard her wake up. She started freaking out. Apparently she'd lost her phone and was using her laptop as her alarm. She was supposed to open at her job at 6:30 a.m. She asked if she could borrow my phone and called her boss, and she left for work. She arrived back home at 3 basically weeping. She'd been written up 3 times before this, and because of this, she lost her job. She started going off on me about how freaked up it was that I took the charger. She thinks I should have reminded her in the evening to leave my charger out or woken her up before taking my charger back to ask if I could have it so she could set up a different alarm or ask me to wake her up. She asked me to call her boss and explain that it was my fault she was late. I refused. I said it was her fault she lost her phone. Her fault she didn't charge her computer that day when I texted her in the morning to remind her I needed my charger back. Her fault she'd already been written up 3 times. She refuses to speak to me now, and our mutual friends say one of 3 things: I should have known better to let her borrow something, because I know how she can be, I should have woken her up and asked for it back, or at least called her boss to explain. But I just cannot agree with any of them that this is my fault. Is it my fault she lost her job? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. She is showing a lot of immaturity. You made the conditions for her using your charger incredibly clear, and she didn't even follow them. It might be hard to come back from the impact on the friendship, which is a shame. Hopefully once she calms down things will improve, but fundamentally, you aren't responsible for her poor choices, and none of the solutions to the problem are reasonable. The solution is for her to grow up and stop trying to turn your shared friends against you. Not the idiot. You gave her more than enough notice you needed your charger. It is your charger, and how does one lose their phone, because that is most interesting. You genuinely didn't know she needed her alarm, and it is her fault she's been written up 3 times. It is not your responsibility to know better. You were trying to do something kind, and she didn't respect the fact that you asked for your property back. Also, your reminders shouldn't serve her convenience. Lastly, there is a possibility she may not have gotten your text because she lost her phone, but nevertheless, it's your stuff. Not the idiot. She's an adult. She needs to take responsibility. Yes, if you didn't take the charger back, she would have had an alarm and not been late, therefore not losing her job. But if she didn't lose her phone, already have been written up 3 times and charged her laptop earlier, she also wouldn't have lost the job. You were doing her a favor. You made it clear when you needed it back. She didn't give it back, so you took it back. You aren't her mom. You aren't her personal assistant. You are being super reasonable. My niece is a college senior with a 3.5 grade point average with a double major. She is a beautiful young woman that makes the room brighter when she walks in. She has a great wit and even better laugh. For 6 months, my sister-in-law and her husband cut down our 20-year-old niece on a daily basis over everything. They didn't like her boyfriend. They didn't like her coming home late. They didn't want her having guests over in their shared home when the parents were gone. During this time, they would routinely make cutting comments comparing her to an aunt that died of an overdose, threatened to call the cops over her coming home late from curfew, and just blasted her for everything that they didn't believe in their "my way is the only way" ways. When we noticed our niece was getting worse with this mental abuse, we decided enough was enough and time to stay with us for a while. Our niece immediately began to flourish, but our relationship with my wife's sister and her husband plummeted. They wanted us to instill rules we wouldn't do and wanted us to make it hard on our niece so she would go back home. Instead, we gave her a loving and nurturing home with a family that does things together, shows affection, and helps each other out on individual problems. I went from having 3 children to 4 as there is always room for 1 more at the table. My niece began to flourish and that is all we cared about. A few weeks later, during our family vacation, with our niece in tow, my sister-in-law blew up our phones for 6 straight hours. My wife was getting very upset, and out of frustration, I showed the text to my niece which contained absolutely terrible things said about her by her own mother. I felt it was crap. Our family vacation was getting wrecked, and I felt she had a right to see what her mother was saying about her. Our relationship continued to deteriorate with my sister-in-law. We continuously encouraged our niece to repair the relationship, and after a few months, while still living with us, our niece began seeing her parents for meals. It was during this time, my niece was told that my daughter was a tramp by my niece's grandfather and that my niece should get out of my house. Because of this, we cut off our 17-year-old daughter from seeing them until they apologized, which they have refused to do. During this refusal, I admitted, actually proudly, about sharing the texts because there is only so much a man can take, and after learning they called my daughter a tramp, they needed something in return. Now they are saying I am the idiot. What do you think? Everyone's the idiot here. Specifically the adults. Your niece's family is horrifically abusive, and you did the right thing by getting her out of there and by protecting your daughter. That being said, you shouldn't have shown your niece those texts. She's been dealing with her parents' abuse for her whole life. She is completely aware of what they think of her. Showing her those texts didn't change the situation at all. All it did was cause an already vulnerable person more distress. I know you're doing your best in the situation, but you messed up here. You are not the idiot for taking her in. However, you have on one hand shown her love and family, and at the same time used the other hand to push her toward abuse. And by showing her the texts, you subjected her to the abuse. That was your action that harmed her. It sounds like you need to be no contact with these people who treat your niece so poorly and who say awful things about your daughter. If you love and value them, protect them from all this. And let yourself be a barrier to their hateful words, not the one delivering them. Not the idiot. Everyone is saying that you shouldn't have shown her those texts. Because she's read it already, she was abused, and she already knows. I disagree. Sure, she knows what her parents have said, but not that she has actual adults in her corner. If I were abused and saw my 2 caretakers getting more and more irritated over the course of a drive, I would assume that I'd done something wrong. Now she knows her parents haven't changed, but she also has solid confirmation that you and your wife are good people. I think you're okay, friend. First of all, I know how that sounds, but it's really not like that. My girlfriend and I were childhood friends turned high school and college sweethearts. We are both 20 now and have been dating since we were 14. We are both commuter students at the same state college, so we still live at home. The same home. Because our parents are married. It's my mom and her dad. Both divorced when they met, you can imagine the rest. When we were in high school, we begged them not to date because of exactly this reason. Weirdly enough, while they were just dating they were totally fine with my girlfriend and I being together, but it pretty much changed immediately when they got married last year and moved in together. Honestly, I hate being in this situation. Even though I know there is nothing wrong with us, it needles me every time my mom says, "Go tell your sister X." I think she is doing it on purpose to get under my skin. My real dad thinks the situation is hilarious, and his view basically boils down to, "What did you expect from the crazy mum?" But I see him infrequently and our living situation would be very bad if we moved in with him, so that isn't an option. My girlfriend's bio mom has not been in the picture for her whole life, so that's not an option either. We can't afford to get our own place until we graduate. This living situation is driving us crazy, but we want to ride it out until we've graduated and have jobs and can get our own place, or a place with roommates. Our parents have become laser focused on breaking us up, calling us brother and sister at every opportunity, and lecturing us about how disgusting it is, asking us aren't we embarrassed that our friends know, saying that it's not anyone's fault that they got married first, and this is just the way it has to be. I love this girl and have spent my life with her. I want to spend the rest of my life with her. I just can't stomach breaking up when we are fine, and it is this bizarre outside circumstance trying to drive a wedge between us. Am I the idiot? Are we all bad? Is it inappropriate no matter what to date your stepsister who you live with? Not the idiot. It's your mom and her dad's fault this happened if they started dating after you two did. Honestly, it's inappropriate of them to have done what they did, but you are completely fine. They should have waited until you and your girlfriend moved out to get married to avoid this situation. I can only imagine how difficult and uncomfortable this is for you, but just know that you are not in the wrong. This is an awful situation, but since you didn't grow up as siblings, I don't think it's weird. This is just a creepy thing from both of your parents. Not the idiot. Your relationship is longer than theirs, and they need to respect that. I bet they thought, because you were both young it'll fizzle out. I also think that they are concerned how they look. People will comment that it's awkward, but as soon as you say you and your girlfriend have been together longer, they look like the weird ones. You and your girlfriend, her father and your mother found happiness. Neither should take that away from each other. Not the idiot. This is one situation where I think it's actually not inappropriate to date your step-sibling. You were sweethearts and were an item long before your parents became romantically involved. Honestly, I think both of them are idiots for pursuing a relationship with each other. I think you and your girlfriend should make every effort to move out. Even if you have to rent a room off somebody or stay in a teeny tiny studio apartment, I think it's vital to both of you that you get out of this toxic situation. I don't think breaking up will fix it.